On the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradigm. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off. Good morning from Paradise Surfers. My name's Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the Crypto Hitman, and it is Wednesday, March 11th. The sun is still shining. The markets haven't gone to zero. I'm feeling bullish, guys. I'm feeling damn good right now. CPI numbers just dropped. Inflation coming in at 2.4%, in line with expectations. What does this mean for the upcoming rate decision? What does this mean for future rate decisions? What does this mean for long-term borrowing costs? And most importantly, what does this mean for your altcoin and your Bitcoin bags? We shall discuss and deliberate. What else do we got on the docket? Of course, Iran news continues. Looks like oil may be coming on to the market. I think that story may be behind us sooner rather than later, and we can stop panicking about the price of oil, but we will see what happens there. And then we got big banks. I think MasterCard is now coming into the crypto space with news that they will be now piloting a major crypto payments program. So the adoption continues. Hopefully you guys aren't bearish anymore, because we're feeling damn good. But, all right, with that, maybe we can start with the inflation. I don't know, maybe we got other stories. Or maybe start with the charts, because I actually have no idea what the current price of Bitcoin is. I haven't looked at it.
Well, I think you're going to be happy with it, because what we want to happen is what is happening. Bitcoin's still staying above $70,000. What do you know? We were talking about it right here. We want to see this yellow 200 moving average start to round. And what does this look like to you? That looks like it is starting to round. As the 300 moving average continues lower, the yellow 200 moving average starting to round. You want to see a bullish cross, which means that this yellow line will come through this red line from below. And the price action for Bitcoin still looks good here, consolidating between the two moving averages above $70,000. That's what we want to see. Coinbase back to $200. Great to see there. Ethereum still above $2,000. $2,067, slightly underperforming Bitcoin. We want to see that these moving averages tighten up faster, but you do have that rounding formation coming into play on the 200 moving average there, and it's sitting above this white line that I've had here for months, the very important line that continues to be support and resistance, and where the consolidation is occurring for Ethereum. Yes, that means that NASDAQ is up 100 points above 25,000, and look what it is also doing, sitting in between the two moving averages. Now, why is this different? The longer moving average is underneath the higher moving average here. We want to see that both of these continue to turn up, and we get a high-level consolidation and breakout by the end of March in the stock market. That will follow suit with the macros that we continue to talk about here on a daily basis.
If you are holding Bitcoin, or Ethereum for that matter, and you're thinking about selling it, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now is not the time to be selling at $70,000 Bitcoin and $2,000 ETH. So who are the sellers out there right now? I know there's going to be market makers. There's going to be like the big money players, the hedge funds and stuff that just do a lot of trading. Okay, fine. But if you're like a long-term hodler, if you believe in this asset class, if you're a regular retail Joe, essentially like us, what are you doing selling Bitcoin at 70,000? Like, no. Just no. Huddle on, guys. We're almost out of the shit. I think this consolidation will absolutely resolve to the upside. So don't sell your Bitcoin for pennies, please.
CoinMarketCap Fear and Greed Index, the sentiment is at 25, which is still in the fear, but they say stable. Obviously, this is much better than 5. But again, I don't know, anywhere in the middle on CoinMarketCap's Fear and Greed Index doesn't really matter to me. It's only in moments of extreme fear and extreme greed that I really use this indicator to make maybe trading decisions or add it to the arsenal. But it is nice to see that we're a little bit off but still kind of scared here. We're at 70K, hit as high as 72K. People are still fearful, which is good. I would like us to stay in the fear as we continue to grind higher, because I want optimism to come back only after we're back in the $84,000 range.
Well, this gauge directly correlates to the price. So yeah, as we continue to grind up and we breach 80,000, 90, 100, you're going to start to see that greed flip back. But just another indication for me that now is not the time to be selling. You want to be selling into the greed, and ideally buying in the fear if you have dry powder for that. But I'm pleased to see that we've kind of come up out of the absolute lowest of the lows. We're heading in the right direction. So overall positive kind of direction where that's going with the fear and greed. Does this lead to an alt season sooner rather than later? That's I guess the bigger question in my mind. But maybe we'll get to CPI here with what you got.
Yeah, and alt season comes from what? Ethereum going higher and risk on assets catching a bid, which comes from what? Liquidity. So the ISM, the Fed cutting rates, the Fed going print or go burr. Well, today the US CPI data came in at 2.4%. The expectations were at 2.4%, so it met expectations. Maybe that's why we saw this quick green candle on Bitcoin, a $500 green candle, as well as the 100-point green candle on the NASDAQ. What do you think is going on here? Because everything looks like we are on track for another interest rate cuts, but we only have 6 days, and still nobody believes it's going to come in 6 days. Do you think it's going to come next month? Or I think we're going to have to wait all the way till June for the next interest rate cut from the Fed under the new leadership that Trump himself will be appointing?
Yeah, once again, I've lost all faith in this Fed and Chairman Powell to cut rates any further. They've basically gone out on record many times now saying that they think they're at neutral or close to neutral rates, which to me makes no sense because it's still, you will pay 6% interest if you get a mortgage right now, right? That ain't working for the vast majority of American people. And it is a massive, massive drag and a headwind on the economy and does affect jobs. So, yeah, I think this current iteration of the Fed, they will not do the right thing despite inflation coming in at expectations, almost at the, their golden, inflation number they're trying to hit is 2%. We're at 2.4. We're basically there, right? And the way the trend is going, every month dropping further, further, and further down, it's going to hit that 2%. It's probably going to drop below the 2% unless the Fed engineers a bit of an economic recovery with some quantitative easing. So if I were them, I would absolutely cut rates. And we're going to see dissent. We're going to see a number of governors dissent on the decision, saying that they would have cut rates. But the majority of the governors, they're going to come out and say, hold pat, hold tight. We didn't get it at 2%. Who cares about your jobs? Who cares about the fact you can't get a home, young people? We're keeping the rates high. So sadly, that is where things are at with this iteration of the Fed. But I remain eminently hopeful that Kevin Warsh, who comes in May and then will cut and then makes their first decision in June, will absolutely cut rates. Who knows? Maybe even a jumbo cut.
Yeah, this is the lowest core CPI since 2021, yet they're saying it's still not low enough. And who was in power before the lowest CPI since 2021? Well, that was Trump's first term on the back end of COVID, or the front end of COVID, I should say. So I don't know what they're seeing. What's interesting about this from a data perspective is which way are we trending? Obviously, if you look at the chart, you can see we're trending lower, but you're creating around the bottom because their target usually is 2%, and you expect that we're get down to 2%. But if we look at Truflation here, what's interesting about Truflation is they've actually been recently marking us below 1% inflation, between 1.2% to as low as 0.9%. Well, Nick, why does that even matter? Well, here you go. The official US CPI headline inflation comes in at 2.4%. Correctly predicted by our data team, the same as in January and in line with market consensus. Our data forecasting model, again, correctly predicted 2.4%. We reached this number by aging our data by about 45 days, mapping it onto the BLS weights and categories, and running regression analysis. Check our spaces for more details. So again, Truflation continues to be accurate to a 95 percentile on a 45-day lag. And lately, they have been showing inflation sub 2% and closer to 1%. So the trend seems to be our friend. Inflation will continue to come down, and maybe the Fed needs to look at Truflation data in order to cut the rate now rather than later.
Well, you know what they're going to say in this press conference? Well, due to the uncertainty around the Iran war, which we hate because we hate Trump, they won't say that part out loud. We can't cut rates. We can't possibly cut rates because you've caused uncertainty, Donald Trump. You've caused a temporary one-day spike in oil prices. Never mind, they dropped back down a day later. We can't possibly cut rates. We're worried about the future. We're worried about what Donald Trump might do next. Never mind that the entire economy is trending towards deflation. It's pretty crazy, man. It's really political, I think, at this point. But if that is the case, if it is in fact political, then I guess we can take solace in knowing that Kevin Warsh is coming in. He'll be political on the side that we need him to be.
Yeah, it looks like oil's back down to $83.84, spiked as high as like $114 while the overall markets were closed. That was the future markets. So some insiders, some institutions, you should feel good about it because they got wrecked buying oil futures over the weekend when you can't at $114 a barrel. It opened back up as low as like $80 a barrel yesterday, spiked again yesterday to closer to 90, and we're back to $83.99 per barrel today. So although a war is going on, the Strait of Hormuz is 20% of oil. Oh my gosh, oil prices are going to $1 million. We're up a whopping $10 per barrel, which effectively, if you go to the gas station today, maybe your gas prices are up like 20 to 30%. If they reorganize after the fear that was induced this weekend by oil prices spiking, you're going to be back down and you're going to be up about 10% per gallon compared to the lows. Keep in mind, there are lows that we saw only a couple weeks ago. These were new lows in the gas prices since when? Trump's last term.
Yeah, so instead of it costing $40 for me to fill up my tank, it's going to cost $44. I don't know how I'm gonna manage, guys. I think I might have to take to panhandling on the street because I don't know if I can manage that extra $4 a month in extra gas. It's kind of ridiculous to me that this is what everyone was panicking about on mainstream media. Can you believe it? Can you believe what he's done? He's increased our gas prices. Dude, it's extra $4 a month. Calm the F down. And then the second point I'll make is there are so many avenues out of this kind of like risky situation that we're in. One, we completely defeat Iran's military to the point where they can't shut the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, option one. I know Trump's working on that. They're bombing any boats that come in there. We've already sunk like 56 of their military ships. And then the other option, which seems like they're also doing at the same time, is they're just going to release more oil from the reserves that are sitting around the world. There's plenty of oil, guys. So they can solve this any number of ways. To think that this is somehow going to spiral out of control and we're going to have oil back above 120, I'm sick of seeing these talking heads on mainstream media causing fear and panic in people. Because how many people are selling their portfolio? How many people are, selling their stocks and selling their whatever because they're fearful now over something they really shouldn't be? So it's pretty frustrating to see this mainstream media reporting on this. My guess is we'll see oil down below, $70 a barrel in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, here's Germany releasing part of its oil reserves due to the Middle East war and rising fuel prices. That's the headline. Nonetheless, a lot of these major countries have oil strategic reserves, even though more oil is being produced on a daily basis. Strait of Hormuz is about 20% of the global supply, or 20% of the global supply runs through there. It's down to about 18% now because of drill baby drill Trump increasing the American onshore production, so that's good to see. But like you said, there's tons of oil. Even Elon himself says oil, it's kind of like diamonds. They want you to believe that it's rare, that it's this, that it's that. Humanity will never run out of oil in multiple generations. It's kind of the lifeblood of Earth itself. So I think we're going to be okay. I don't like gas prices going up either, guys. I was there taking pictures as it went from over $4 a gallon down to $3.75, $3.50, $3.25, down to $2.49, I think is the lowest I saw here in St. Louis. Maybe $2.33 for a weekend. I don't know. So I love saving that money. But again, you got to zoom out. Everybody's like, oh my God, oil prices is so high. We were at lowest prices of oil in the past 5 years. Right now here at 83, we're still below the average. Gas prices are still below what we were, only a year ago. So when in doubt, zoom out when it comes to prices on Bitcoin, but also prices on assets that you use in your daily lives, especially when this is mass panic, mass euphoria for oil. Oh my gosh. And then you look at it and you're like, wait a second, we're still much cheaper than we've been in the recent past.
Yeah, to be fair, look, the price of oil does affect your assets, which is to me more important than whether I'm spending $44 or $47 at the pump every couple weeks. But in any event, I think this war, man, I think it's pretty much going to be wrapped up in the next week or so. Here's my prediction as to what is going to happen in the next couple weeks. Trump and co. will bomb more, okay? He'll tweet some more, bellicose type stuff, and bang our chest, and okay, we're winning, okay, and then he'll declare victory. Okay, we've won. We've achieved our military objective of destroying 95% of their, arsenal across like land, sea, and air. Okay. There will not be regime change, however. The regime ain't going anywhere, sadly. I mean, it's terrible to say because they're going to go back to their ultra repressive ways. And if there are any uprising, they will gun down and murder innocent civilians on the street. And then the liberals will be left defending that again. So sadly, the regime won't go anywhere. The war will be won, at least for now. But there's a pretty damn good chance that we're back at this in a couple of years from now. If the regime just continues to build up their arsenal again, continues to try to enrich more uranium, continues to try to get a nuclear bomb. It's not acceptable to us here in the U.S. It's not acceptable to all the Western powers. So sadly, this may be, if anyone follows the Israel-Hamas stuff, it's kind of the same thing. Like every few years, there's like a big war, and then it dies down after that war's over, and then Hamas builds its military and arsenals back up, starts shooting again to Israel, starts attacking, and then Israel goes and attacks them and bombs the shit out of them, and then rinse, repeat. That's been going on for like 20 years over there. So my cynical take is, unless there is somehow actual genuine regime change, which I don't know how that's going to happen, because apparently their military is still very strong. They have like 500,000 like fighters or something. I don't know how the citizens rise up and defeat that, but absent regime change, this may be the new normal. Every couple of years, we're going in and bombing Iran, unless, of course, a Democrat takes over the White House, and then we'll probably just give them a couple $1 billion, and then they'll get a nuke after that. So my cynics take that's that. But the good news is that in a couple of weeks, this round of the war should be done.
Let's pull up what is going on in the markets. Obviously, going on about the war and what's going to happen here with our assets. So let's look at our assets here. First golden cross in 2+ years. Altcoin dominance just had its first monthly MACD bullish cross in almost 2.5 years. We told you this cycle is different. If the 4-year cycle was typical, we would have been down to $40,000 and we would have a long year of downward. But even during that bull market, altcoins didn't do much. You had a couple outliers. You had Bitcoin doing its thing. Ethereum didn't go to new all-time highs. BNB slightly did, maybe a 2x. Last time this happened, alts rallied for 3 to 4 months and outperformed Bitcoin. That's what we would love to see. We're looking for Ethereum to outperform Bitcoin, and then altcoins outperform Ethereum, which means that you are in alt season, folks. And last time we had a major alt season, well, it was over 2.5 years ago, and things are lining up here. Things are lining up pretty good. When you look at a chart perspective, that's good. But what can cause altcoins to actually move for the first time in a long time? It's going to be utilization of the ETH network, price of the Ethereum network, and then, of course, support for other crypto assets. Cointelegraph here, big 254 billion. Wells Fargo files a trademark for WFUSD, signaling potential crypto services or a dollar peg stablecoin. Now, obviously, the stablecoin most likely will run on the Ethereum network, but why else is this bullish? I think it's more utilization of Ethereum, but also Wells Fargo is a big bank. Is this hinting at closer negotiations being completed by banks and crypto companies with the Clarity Act, which we know is very important and we're rooting for it to be over here in the next 18 to 19 days? What do you think?
That's actually a great point. I mean, if the banks were smart, instead of trying to kill the Clarity Act and kill innovation, they would just get out in front of it and try to outcompete Tether and outcompete Circle and offer a better stablecoin with better yield or better features or whatever. Just compete instead of trying to kill the competition. So perhaps that's what Wells Fargo is doing, signaling that they're going to create their own stablecoin. Perhaps it will be yield bearing. Wouldn't that be nice? Because that would mean that the crypto side won in those negotiations over the Clarity Act and would signal that it's also getting passed soon. So yeah, overall very positive for adoption. But I want to go back to earlier point you made and whether alt season is coming. The one thing I've kind of resigned myself to at this point, or accepted, is that this cycle was absolutely completely different than all the other cycles. From the fact that Bitcoin hits all-time high before the halving, from the fact that we had no alt season, from the fact that Bitcoin's all-time high was a mere 126,000, which history would have shown it would have gone to at least 160, 180,000 if previous cycles, held firm. And the drawdown here was 50% instead of 80% or whatever it historically has been. So this cycle is completely different. The market's changed. Bitcoin's evolving. It's changing. And for those who would suggest otherwise, I would actually say that it would be weirder for history to repeat a fourth time in a row. I mean, things change, guys. The world changes. Assets change. Technology changes. Things evolve. So for things to happen exactly the same as it happened 3 or 4 other times, that to me was a less likely outcome than things being different. And guess what? Things were very different this cycle, and I expect that to continue to be the case.
Yeah, another push for altcoin products going to the moon. MasterCard launches a crypto partner program, bringing together 85 crypto companies to develop cross-border transfers, B2B payments, and global payouts. And there was a minute video of all of them going through there. Some of these I recognize, some of them are just crypto-related platforms, but there is several crypto projects on here that we will recognize. Aptos is on there. I know Link was on there. There's Binance. There's another centralized exchange in BitGo. Bybit's on there. Like, these are the type of things, Cosmos, that's the Atom token, that makes the difference in the altcoin sector. These are the type of things in 2017 that would have caused 10%, 20%, 30% green candles, and right now are presenting nothing. 2% green day for altcoins. I think this still points to the future of blockchain technology, the future of some of these products that have tokens, and we are seeing on the technical analysis that altcoins are starting to outperform as well. You can't really tell because it's a 0.5% here, 1% there. But you have to zoom out. You have to start somewhere. And I think it's time to take note of the crypto markets again. And let's see if Ethereum can continue to outperform Bitcoin. We've been saying this for a year now. No altcoin fun until $5,000 Ethereum. That continues to be what is playing out. But we are seeing hints that altcoins are coming back alive. We're seeing hints that it doesn't take much capital for Ethereum to move up rapidly. And let's see if Ethereum can finally break that high water mark of 5,000 and really turn the trenches on for all of us.
Well, $5,000 ETH will mean like full-blown mania in alt season, in earnest. But I think we're going to have sectors that are outperforming. We're going to have certain coins that do like incredibly well. As Bitcoin, let's assume it continues to grind up out of this, $60,000 low, and we break, 75, 80, and Ethereum is back to like 2,500, 3,000. During that phase, there will be many alts doing well. So not all is lost. I think we're in for some fun here, assuming the market does, continue to move upward. But yeah, you bring up a great point, man. In 2017 or whatever, if that announcement had been made, all those coins would be like 10%. That's the difference between like a bear market and a bull. Right. In a bear market, good news doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
In a bull market, it pumps everything 10%.
It would have been up 10%, and then you would have had everybody talking about it for a day or two, and if there's enough liquidity in the market, then it would follow with another 5%, another 10% daily candle, and then we'll see if the momentum would stick or not. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we need liquidity. There isn't a lot of liquidity out there, and that's the name of the game, but this guy has some liquidity. Talking about altcoins, talking about Ethereum, here's another perfect segue by your host here, Crypto Hitman. The whale just bought 44,888 Ethereum worth nearly $93 million. Whales are loading up again, probably buying it somewhere around $2,000 per Ethereum. That's a nice 2.5x once we hit $5,000. I think that's a smart move by this whale. But again, this goes to what you were talking about yesterday. Like, I don't know this guy's wallet, so I could be completely off base. But you talked about the longer we consolidate down here, slowly grind higher, we get more clarity on what's going on. Maybe Clarity Act itself is going to pass. All the global macros that are supposed to come into play in 2025 or 2026 as far as liquidity from the Fed, liquidity from the federal government, liquidity from risk on assets in general. Well, what do you know? Maybe this is, like you said, people are going to start being like, all right, I'm sitting on this pile of cash, but Ethereum just bounced about 25% off the lows. It looks like it wants to continue higher. The Iran Black Swan didn't send it to new lower lows. Maybe I need to start deploying this stablecoin into an asset that I think is going to outperform Bitcoin and I think is going to be here for more cycles to come. And they're starting to deploy into Ethereum. And doing a nice round number, 44,888 ETH, $93 million buy. What do you think about that?
I mean, smart money is always loading before the regular Joes get in. But yeah, I think it just comes back to probabilities. Like, what are the chances that Ethereum? I mean, we're already so oversold on Bitcoin, ETH. We're already like at the lows of this range of consolidation. ETH's been consolidating for 5 years. 5 years between $2,000 and we hit 5,000 for a second. Let's call it 4,900 for like a minute. I think last August or something. I forget when that was. It's been consolidating for 5 years, and it's the low end of that range. So look, if you're long-term ETH believer, if you see the adoption that's happening, if you think that this war is going to get resolved soon, if you think that Donald Trump's going to engineer an economic recovery in 26, as I believe, and you have $93 million sitting around from crypto profits, well, yeah, now might be a time to deploy some capital. So good job, whales. I think more are coming, and the regular Joes will follow.
What else do we got to cover today? We kind of already covered that. A lot with the CPI data and everything else. We looked at some charts. What is Pulse Chain as a network doing today? It is down a little bit, 2% on the day, 3% on PulseX, 5% on Inc. down. But the 7-day period for Pulse Chain, all core assets still green, up 6% on PLS, 7% on PLSX, 6% on Inc. and 2% on Hex. And then, of course, we know like 25% on PTGC and 10 or 12% on Surf. And I think there is going to be another Surf buy soon. I saw on the blockchain that the DAO funds are moving around. Is there going to be a DAO vote? It's not a ton of money, but it's somewhere between like $700 to $1,000 that is built up in the DAO. Is there going to be a vote around how that asset is used? And will there be another liquidity ad here at the lows for Surf and at the lows for Pulse?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan. So we are going to facilitate that buy and liquidity. What, by the way, what assets should we add it with? Like PLSX? Like, what do you think?
Well, everybody in the DAO gets a vote. If you look at the past 7 days, the biggest performer continues to be what we thought would be the highest performer, which is PLSX, probably due to the buy and burn built within that deck. So it's outperforming all the other core assets by 2% in the past week. I think that trend continues. That's the one that I think over the long term has the best fundamentals to continue to outperform. It had a lower sacrifice price or lower sacrifice dollar amount than the likes of PLS, and it also has a built-in buy and burn by everybody who utilizes that decentralized exchange. And we know when the markets turn on, more volume is generated, so more PLSX will be burned. So that would be my vote, but everybody in the DAO, you can vote too. Maybe it's not one of the 4 blue chips, but I just think when the blue chips are this low, barely off all-time lows, that's when it's a good time to pair with those because they have the highest probability of having a nice rebound.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the DAO already spoke and basically said, hey, you guys decide. Because they're like, whatever. Half the people are checked out and they're, doing other stuff. They're touching grass. Good for you guys. Good for everyone who's able to touch some grass. We're still out here grinding because we're insane believers in Web3, for better or worse. Got some great comments here from my camera's a little effed up. Let's see if I can fix it. We got a great comment here from Cookie Dev. I think that's the Smart Sentinels team. Shout out to Smart Sentinels. Things are different this cycle because everything starts and will be tokenized. The traditional markets slowly bleed, and the tokenized market fills up at the same time. Yeah, I mean, tokenization is one of those trends that a couple of years ago, I don't think anyone was talking about how everything was going to be tokenized on-chain. And now you got the likes of BlackRock and all these massive financial firms saying everything's going to be tokenized in the financial world. So, and it's all going to run on chain, obviously. That chain's probably going to be Ethereum or Solana or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, again, you can't assume because something happened in the past it's going to repeat exactly. The adoption rates changed. I mean, think about it. If Donald Trump hadn't won that election, we'd be in a very different spot right now. I don't think Wall Street would be singing our praises and talking about tokenization, etc. So, unexpected shit happens, and that impacts the market. So just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again in the future. Remember that, guys. But anyway, I'm very bullish on the long term of crypto. We got to get through this little phase of the bear market here. I think it's almost done. $70,000 Bitcoin doesn't feel so bad. 25% fear reading. Not terrible. Not 4%. So, look. Things could be worse. Things could be better. Hang in there. Keep building. Keep grinding. And like Moomud says, let's go.
Yep, let's do it. Let's see here. So it does sound like then we're probably going to be doing a $500 surf buy and then a $500 PLSX buy, and adding that to liquidity. $1,000 at these levels. Obviously, it's not the most amount of money, but hey, you got to start somewhere. When these low valuations, that $1,000 liquidity can quickly multiply to $10,000, even $100,000 in liquidity just from that one simple buy, based on both assets moving up off the lows as the market comes back around. So look out for that buy. Look out for that LP ad, and take that as a, direction pointed to the future of what will continually happen with the surf token. Buys and burns, buys and LP ads, automatic staking rewards simply for holding it. And the longer Crypto Paradise continues to stay active, the longer the market wants to turn around and go higher, the more revenue, the more marketing share, the more trading volume that will occur, and all of that will be utilized to pump that surf token over time.
Hell yeah, man. I'm looking forward to the bullish times returning. It's been so long that alts pump that I've kind of forgotten what it feels like. But it does feel great. I'll remind you guys, it feels great when your bags go up instead of down. And it just the activity level and the positivity, and everyone coming back in the chats, and they're making tweets, and they're rating, and they're creating content, and they're getting bullish again. I mean, it's an awesome feeling. It's been how many? It's been, I mean,
2.5 years since the last time the charts were bullish for alts versus the rest of the
Well,
market.
no, I mean, we did have during some time, there was a meme season. It was a year ago now, something like that. I don't even remember how long ago. It's been ages. And that was what was happening at that time. It was very active. Retail was here, charts, or Twitter was active, etc. But it's been, really. I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember when that happened. It's been so damn long.
Yep. And here you go. Any markets. Since yesterday's live show, they picked up another 15 or 16 followers on Twitter. So shout out to you guys tuning into here and then going and following Any Markets, because we might need to start betting on when the altcoin season will come. But now we can bet on sports on Any Markets. I replied to this and I said, is this the next poly market in the making? Of course, we're following along with Any Markets. If you are looking at betting markets, we're going to start betting here, so we're going to put our money where our mouth is. As we make predictions on the show, we're going to put $100 here, $100 there on these bets. You can bet with us, bet against us on Any Markets. There is no hint of a token just yet, but we do know that it is a crypto-based product, and these crypto-based products like to build first, generate user base, generate revenue, and then maybe reward those people for being early with a good tokenization of their platform. So I would be early to Any Markets. That's all we can really say. That's all the information we really have. But we're going to speculate on it. We're going to start utilizing it. And maybe, just maybe in the future when the alt season really turns on, maybe Any Markets token is coming to a portfolio near you.
Hell yeah, man. I'm pumped for Any Markets. We got to bridge some funds over from Solana to BNB chain, because that's how you actually bet. I believe it's a BNB chain kind of native app. But I'm ready to place that bet. Bitcoin will not fall below $60,000 in the next, I don't know, we say 2 weeks. Maybe that's obvious to people, but I would assume there are some bears still out there who are thinking $40,000 is right around the corner, because Donald Trump's going to do something horrible and the world's coming to an end and World War III, or maybe it's 4-year cycle. I don't know what the hell the bears are thinking. But I'd love to see you come out and bet against us, because my bet is that we're actually going higher. But we will, in fact, put a couple $100 down on it is not going to fall below $60,000 Bitcoin.
Let's try to get some funds moved around, get that set up today, so that way we can do that live on air when we are doing these live shows. As we throw out a prediction, if somebody calls our bluff, then fine, we'll create an Any Markets prediction market, and you can bet against us live on air as well. Obviously, I expect this to get more active because it is crypto-based, crypto community-based. As the market turns around, that is when these types of protocols and platforms get used, as people have more dry powder, get a little more risk on, and are willing and checked in to take the time to learn new platforms. That's what I see a lot in crypto, is when the green candles aren't there, liquidity dries up, so people are just like, I'm busy, I don't have time to play around with things because there isn't enough money to be made. But crypto is one of those crazy places where once there's a few green candles, all of a sudden people are willing to spend 1, 5, 10 hours a day on utilizing new platforms, getting involved, and taking advantage of opportunities. When do you think that retail will get turned back on for crypto platforms like Any Markets, protocols, or even altcoin investing in general?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a slow process to climb up out of a bear market, right? A lot of liquidity was sucked out over the past 6 months. A lot of fear. People are not really locked in right now. They're not really paying attention, but it's slowly. Look at the fear and greed index. That's probably a good gauge to look at. As that continues to grind higher, and as the prices of Bitcoin, Ethereum continue to grind higher, people get a little bit more risk on as time goes by, right? And then eventually, all of a sudden you wake up one day and oh shit, greed's at 80%. Volumes are back up. We've had a couple of weeks of green, green, green. I guess if you think about it, it wasn't all that long ago, right? Like we even after 10/10, the big crash in October, there were like weeks or months where actually we had, or not even, maybe not months, but weeks where we had some good outperformance. Things were grinding higher, like, oh, we're feeling good and a little risk on, but it's been now a few months of basically, ever since we crashed, there was that moment, right, where I think we were at $80,000 Bitcoin. And us bulls thought, okay, we're going to resolve to the upside here. We were consolidating, we're at 80,000 for a while. And then, bam, it crashed like 60. And when that happened, it kind of just took all like hope out of the market, and everyone just got bearish as shit for about 2 months. So that's kind of where we're at, guys. But we'll get back to the good times.
Well, part of the crash was the Japanese unwinding trade as their economy was imploding and they were going through QT. But what do you know? If Japan caused the crash from the unwinding trade, do you think that now Japan can start the altcoin season with what they got going on here? Japan Central Bank announced to test crypto-based payment system for their national currency. Here we go. It is interesting that the little island of Japan kind of caused the start of the market downfall. Obviously, you had other black swan events, Greenland FUD, World War III with Europe FUD, all these other things. But from a financial market perspective, it was the unwinding of the Japanese trade that started the downtrend. Now, can it be the rewinding of Japan utilizing crypto-based payment systems within their central banks to start the journey upward?
Well, I certainly don't know if this story or this... let's just, even when it happens, is going to cause like an alt season. But it's just more evidence that banks, financial institutions, governments around the world are adopting blockchain and crypto technologies, right? And that trend isn't slowing down. It's only going to continue to accelerate. So, for everyone who's bearish out there, maybe let's do this like counterfactual for a second. There's a reality, a timeline. It didn't happen, thank God, that Kamala Harris won the election here. And the SEC continued to go after crypto companies. The Fed continued to be anti-crypto. The administration anti-crypto, debanking, etc. Do we think all this adoption around the world, between the central banks and between nation states and between regulators, do we think any of this would have happened? No, it would not have. So the fact that happened, the fact that we're seeing all this adoption kind of being laid, the groundwork being laid underneath our feet, so to speak, it's incredibly bullish. It's incredibly bullish. So I don't know. Just for all the bears out there, this could have been a lot worse. Just remember that. I know it doesn't feel good right now, but things could have been a lot worse. But it resolved in a positive way, and I don't think this trend slows down. I don't think, all of a sudden the banks and the government and so on go back to hating crypto. Like, the genie's out of the bottle now, guys. It's happening. Adoption's real.
Yeah, once those big companies put money behind something and they do a lot of due diligence, they're going to at least see it through. It doesn't mean that everything works, but they've been years in the making. In the face of Jamie Dimon calling it rat poison, behind the scenes, they were looking at it. They were doing due diligence. They were building products. They were putting software engineers onto these products. That's how the big boys play. They want to divert you with what they say over here when really they're spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on research and development to get in that sector, to make money off it, to monetize their customers. And that is exactly what we're seeing all these big boys. Every day there's a new big boy that's coming around and launching a crypto platform, supporting Bitcoin through investments, adding it to a balance sheet, trying to do a stable coin. So on the forefront, on their face, they have been talking against it for years, but really they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to figure out if when and how they can participate in these markets, and we are right on the cusp of that becoming a reality. And when that happens, the floodgates will turn on. I know we've been saying that. We did say that, and we went from 16K to 126K Bitcoin. Now this time we want to be saying that go from 60K to 300K Bitcoin, while Ethereum goes to new all-time highs, and the early players can win as degenerates in the trenches with altcoins, rather than just looking for, you know, a 3, 4, 5x out of Bitcoin like all the big boys are.
Oh man, I'm excited for like 10x's to come back, 20x's, 100x's. That's happened to us like numerous times. I mean, in my 10-year being in the space here, been here since like 2017, 2018. Probably had like 5 or 6 like genuine 100x's, not like 100x for a second and then it crashed back down to 0 a day later. That's a meme coin 100x. That doesn't count. I'm talking about 100x where you can actually get money out of there, like good amounts of money. You can actually make like great money because you invested in something early. You believed in it. It worked hard. It caught maybe a little bit of luck, a little bit of tailwinds. The market cooperated, and all of a sudden you're sitting on 100x that sustained itself for months. That's happened to us 5 or 6 times now. And that's excluding all like the 10x, 20x's that happen more routinely. Can I guarantee it's going to happen again? No, I cannot. But there is no market in the world where the probability and the chance for an average Joe to make life-changing gains exist.
That's what really got a lot of retail involved in this, and that's what kind of put it on the spotlight in the headlines, and I expect that to continue. We haven't said hello to everybody. AJ West, good morning. Louie Lowly by 8. That's Miko Chapo, good morning, guys. Cookie Deb, good morning. Wyckoff Stock Market Institute, smash a like, share, and subscribe button. Moonmutt saying, let's go. I think he said that when we were talking about pairing up Surf with PLSX, adding another $1,000 in liquidity there at these low prices, so expect to see a buy of PLSX and a buy of Surf coming in here today, potentially. And then Final Curse saying hi. That is a name I haven't seen in a while or don't recognize, so shout out to you, Final Curse, for tuning in. Of course, we're talking more about macros, Bitcoin, Ethereum, precious metals, oil, but that is what the market is dictating, so that is what we're going to talk about. And then hopefully soon enough, we will get more altcoins, more gems, like the likes of Sentinel. That is the AI platform that we've been talking about. Any Markets doesn't have a token, but we're going to start betting on it, and I'm sure the list will continue to grow as the market continues to find a footing.
Yeah, I mean, there's still exciting things happening behind the scenes in the world of altcoins. There's a lot of good projects building right now, which does encourage me quite a bit. I'm sure there's a lot of bad, scammy projects that gave up, which is also good. But there's some good projects out there. Smart Sentinels is a great project. And in fact, we just announced yesterday to the Pools Council that there is an exclusive seed round opportunity available to them where they can invest into Smart Sentinels at a 2 million FDV and get yourself a free yield-bearing NFT along with that. That opportunity will be opened up to the Crypto Paradise DAO members as well. That is on my to-do list, actually, to share that information with the Crypto Paradise DAO. So you guys in the Crypto Paradise DAO and the Pools Council have the opportunity to get into a project. 2 million FDV in the seed round. The token itself is going to launch at a 10 million FDV. So there's your 5x before the token even launches. And then a 10 million FDV in and of itself is very, very low. And if it does another 5x from there, well, there's your 50x, I don't know, or 25x or something.
So what is the requirements to get into the Pools DAO and the Surf DAO? The Surf DAO is 200,000 Surf or more to be in the DAO. You access that through Pulse Chain. Swap your PLS or your Ethereum or your stablecoin for the Surf token. How do you get into the PoolX Council? You
buy and stake 20,000 pools tokens.
And at current prices, that is very cheap to do. Although the price is up 36% since Crypto Paradise got involved, it's still sitting here around 10 cents or 1 penny per token. Is that correct? Or 10 cents per token?
10 cents.
So 20,000 times 10 cents isn't all that much to be in that council, and you can get in that Sentinel's raise, and there's going to be a lot of other opportunities. There's other perks to being holding PoolX. That is POOLX is the ticker symbol. So buy 20,000 PoolX or buy 200,000 Surf, your choice. PoolX is on BSC Network. Surf is on Pulse Chain Network. I think both of them go higher. Both of them provide unique opportunities. And I think if altcoins come back, the Pool's Launchpad route, that platform is going to be a big winner. Once again, if you look at the Pool's Twitter feed, over 200,000 followers. Yes, a lot of them are tuned out because a lot of them are retail investors. But when green candles come, they come back. And who do they follow? They follow Pools.
Here's a smart play if you guys believe the markets are eventually going to resolve higher and the bull market will come back. Buy yourself some Launchpad tokens. I mean, my goodness. Like, who remembers when the bull run was in full swing and everyone is fighting for allocations into new projects? That's where the big money is, really. I mean, the new projects have the chance, and token economics are good, utilities there, teams good, blah blah. Those can do insane returns in relatively short order. So everyone's fighting over to get these launchpad allocations, but how the launchpads work, and Pools is no different. The more tokens you hold of Pools, the bigger allocation you get. If you hold only like 100 Pools tokens, you get like a $5 allocation, $10 allocation. You're not going to change your life. Like, oh, I invested $5, it did 100 times. Cool, you made $500. Like, big whoop. Now, you invest $5,000, it does 100x. Now you literally have changed your life forever. So, get out in front of it. If you believe the bull market's coming back, I don't know, investing in some Launchpad tokens I think makes a lot of sense. Because opportunities will come and the competition will come back and, the opportunities come back. So, not financial advice. But when we had the opportunity to onboard and come on the Pools team, it was like, you know what, I know the market's shit. I know, in the near term, it may not do much for us. But over the long term, this is a smart move because I don't believe crypto is in a permanent crypto winter.
Yeah, as we wrap up this show, we see that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin a little bit here. Bitcoin still $70,500. Ethereum still $2,056. Up 1% each, respectively, while we see some altcoins across the board that we follow, like Floki's up 3%, 2.5%. Cake token is up over 1%. BNB is up about 1%. So some altcoins in line with Bitcoin and Ethereum or slightly outperforming today. We're still not out of the weeds, but it is nice that both Ethereum and Bitcoin did regain above their 200 moving averages and above their resistance levels. So let's see if we can get some follow through. Obviously, the market is going to be dictated by one man's posts here for the next few days, at least leading into the weekend. So let's see what Trump has to say about the Iranian war. The market continues to react quickly and aggressively to any outcomings from Iran in the Midwest region currently, as that is what is dictating market direction for both traditional markets, commodities, and it seemingly looks like Bitcoin and Ethereum as well.
It's Trump's world. We're just living in it. I mean, he could tweet today, war's over, and the market's going to run, or he's like, we're in this for another 6 months. No one would believe him because, it's pretty much the writing on the walls that we're getting out of this thing soon. There sadly will be no regime change, but we will have defeated most of their military and set them back a couple of years, so at least they don't pose an immediate threat. So I guess that's a positive outcome. I mean, it sucks we didn't get the regime change, but any event, enough about the Iran war. You know what's crazy about ETH? I want to go back to that because you're like, ETH's at $2,000-something, $2,070. Bro, I remember being so excited when ETH hit $2,000 back in 2020. I was like astonished. I was amazed. $2,000 ETH. Can you believe it? 6 years later, we still got $2,000 ETH.
Talk about a consolidation. I mean, that's the biggest thing, too. When you zoom out, that's why Thomas Lee, Joe Lubin, and these guys keep talking about it. Longer an asset consolidates, the bigger the move to the upside if it is a good asset. I believe Ethereum is a good asset. Traditional markets are getting behind it. And it's now at like a 5-year consolidation if you zoom out, which means we could have explosive upside. Remember, Bitcoin went to new highs and did, a 2x of its all-time high. Ethereum didn't even get to new highs. So let's see what happens. Historically, Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin during the bull market. It didn't happen until the back end of it, where when it was so decoupled. Ethereum was like $1,500. Bitcoin was $100,000. We said, hey guys, this is the bottom of the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. I would just swap all to Ethereum and write it out. And that has been the call. I mean, I think Ethereum is up like 80% against Bitcoin during that time frame. But neither of them are very exciting at these price points. And I think there's a lot of upside to come just based on what I'm seeing in the macros, the utilization of the technology, and my belief in the core assets themselves. Consolidation for 5 years in Bitcoin or in Ethereum sure looks like when it breaks out, it could be volatile and send us well into the 5 figures above $10,000 ETH. That would be crazy to see, huh?
if you think about ETH's sort of history here, it actually makes all the sense in the world that we would be going through a 5-year consolidation. You say, wow, 5-year consolidation, that's crazy. That must be a really weak and terrible asset. I can't believe it hasn't gone up in 5 years. Well, actually, no. The opposite's true. The reason it's consolidating for this list long because it has gone up so much since it launched it. I think 10 cents an ETH token. I mean, people made so much money. The returns were so insane on Ethereum. It's minted so many millionaires and decamillionaires and probably even billionaires. I know Vitalik's a billionaire, right? That of course there's a 5-year consolidation because those early guys continue to sell because they made life-changing gains. We need to let those guys continue to sell out, and then the guys like Tom Lee, the institutions, the retail Joes who are happy with like a 5x over the next 10 years. That's the new cohort who's buying from all the deca millionaires that made a shit ton since Ethereum's ICO back in 2016, 2017. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. By the way, I made a lot of money off of ETH too. Very happy about it, but I still hold a shit ton because I think it is going to go 10 times higher over the next, 5-10 years. I didn't make life-changing gains yet, so I got to be a little more patient. But it's going to change my life too. It's going to change the life of a lot of people. Shout out to Vitalik. Shout out to ETH. I think it's the preeminent blockchain. And, you know, for those who are poo-pooing 5 years, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I think that's a good point, a good area to end it. Let's see what happens over the remainder of the day, and we will be live again tomorrow at the same time, same bat station. So let's see what we can do for Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then we got a couple other assets we'll talk about tomorrow. Get GME, GameStop on your radar once again. We'll talk about that. We're up 13% since the entry we gave here in the live show and in the private groups. But why? It looks like it wants to go higher. But if you want to hear why, you got to tune in tomorrow.
By the way, as you were yammering on about whatever, I have managed to buy the surf, buy PLSX, add liquidity. So we've added liquidity as per the DAO's directive, and we will be making an announcement about that on our socials. But I did manage to do that just now, so we got some surf buys coming in, etc.
While Pulse Chain is down about 5%, other Pulse Chain assets down between 1 to 8%. Surf token is now up 1.74% on the day, simply with just a $500 buy plus the own market's interest from you guys tuning in. It doesn't take much for Surf to run a 10x, is what I was saying. We were down to like 85K market cap when PLS was at all-time lows, and Ethereum was $1,500. And we've almost already doubled that up to 121K market cap currently. And, we were down there at 85K saying, you know how easy it is to get a 10X out of this asset and then have that turn into 100X? Well, we're underway and the market really hasn't even turned around yet. So let's see what happens as Surf will continue to progress. We're not going anywhere. The marketing efforts for other projects isn't going anywhere. Pools is going to exist and produce revenue that will be used for Surf buy and burns. And the list goes on and on. If you think that we're not going to make enough funds and put enough funds into the Surf asset over time to make this thing absolutely melt your face, and I think you're sadly mistaken, as long as Pulse Chain as a network can do anything favorable as Ethereum surpasses $5,000.
I mean, yeah, for Surf to hit $1 million market cap, it's not going to take that much, honestly, which is a 10x from here, or maybe a little bit less. So, $1 million market, we ran to like 3.6 mil. At one point, that's when there was only like 400, 200, holders. It was early days. Now there's over 1,000. I think Crypto Paradise is a much more established brand. We need the rest of the blue chips to go up. We need Pulse Chain to go up, and Pulse Chain's underperformed like everything else, really, in the altcoin world. So it is what it is. But like Nick said, we're gonna keep grinding, keep working hard, doing what we do. Hopefully the market ultimately recovers here. I think that it will relatively soon, and we'll see a revival on, some buys coming in on Surf as we speak. So we'll see a little revival on Pulse Chain, and we will see a revival on Surf. Can't wait. All right, ladies and gents, good stuff today. Glad y'all tuned in. Appreciate your time, and we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you on the beach.